I'm looking at that same thing. Like I'm looking at the 02, 03 teams. Like the best team at that time was the Pistons with Chauncey Billups and Rip Hamilton, all those guys. And then I look at the West. We had the Spurs who won 60 games. This was the Kings with Mike Bibby, Chris Webber, PJ Stojakovic. They won 60 games. The Mavericks, they won 60 games. So three teams in the West won 60 games. And then on top of that, the best team would have been the 6th seed in the East. Because I look at the Lakers won 50 games that year. That was the last real year with Shaq and Kobe. We had the Trailblazers with, I believe, Scottie Pippen with those guys. The T-Wolves where they had Marbury and Kevin Garnett. So, like, had they, even if the Pistons were in the West that year, they would have been the 6th seed, which is just
Yeah.
absurd. And then if we just
And I
keep that
just
going, 2004, it gets even crazier. They won 60 games, and then the West, they had all these other teams that I mentioned.
Yeah, and I looked from 2003 back to 2000. The highest seed of all time had 56 wins for the number one seed. Where you have all these teams in the West winning 60 games, where most of the team won was 56 games. So we can kind of point to like some teams right now where the Celtics are on pace for more than 50 wins. They only have 19 losses. The Pistons only have 13 losses. So we'll at least have better records overall. So like as a whole, the conference is better, even though some of these teams are improving, and you kind of have the East in a weird transitionary era where I feel like this season, sure, like the Bucks are off with Giannis. You have Tyrese Halliburton and Jason Tatum hurt, but even if Tatum doesn't come back, I feel like this year, like overall, the records are still better than what the teams were in the early 2000s East, where you're at least going to have more teams with at least 50 wins, where it would be the top two seeds and then everyone else was at like 49, 48, maybe even 42 wins.
I mean, the fact that the Cavaliers made it in '07, the fact that the number 2 player for LeBron was Mo Williams and Zrudas Ilgauskas, like that's a point of the East and how weak it was at that time. You had like the Raptors with like Vince Carter and those teams who could never win more than 50 games. You have like old Dwayne Wade, well, early Dwayne Wade with Shaq. They only won 44 that year when they won the finals. Like you just had this run of a bunch of teams that either had a really big superstar like LeBron or Dwayne Wade, but their sidekick just wasn't enough.
Yeah. No, it's definitely not enough, especially going up against the Cavs. Like when he was young and he could play for 48 minutes and be one of the best players in the world at that time and a top five player for you. So I definitely think it is bad this year. However, just the way and the style of basketball is played right now, I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as what the East was from 2002, 2004. Because think about the most exciting player in the East being Jason Kidd, and then Allen Iverson as well, who is basically like a taller Isaiah Thomas when he almost was MVP for the Celtics.
Yeah, I feel like at best you could say he's like Russ, right? Like peak Russ at his time, but also Allen Iverson didn't rebound like Russell Wilson did or Russell Westbrook. He didn't have the same athleticism. He was maybe the closest thing to that, but he was the superstar for the East. But other than that, like the East was just, it was just, I mean, outside of, you had the Michael Jordan era, which had over, it wasn't quite the LeBron era. So really the East was just kind of what we're dealing with now, except for to a much lesser degree, just more of an identity crisis. Where now, I feel like, at least now we know, like next year we're going to have Tatum back. We're going to have Halliburton back. The Sixers, will Embiid be back to full strength? We'll see. The Knicks are exciting nowadays. So I think that the East has more to do with just year to year where they are right now compared to in the 2000s where there just wasn't really any big superstar in the East. And you had to contend with Shaq and Kobe, the Duncan Spurs, and the Mavericks all in the same conference.
Yeah, it was like Dwayne Wade on his own leading the Heat there as well in '06 and '07. That was an upset over the Dallas Mavericks. So you look at the East right now, it really is dependent on if Jason Tatum comes back, because that will tip probably the balances of power in the entire conference. And he has a documentary that's being advertised on Peacock right now. And there's a lot of talk going on because there's a lot of symbolism, because the time in it, the length is 3:14. for the documentary, and then he signed a contract with the Celtics for 314 million instead of 315 million, and then his area code from his home place where he is from is 314 as well. And then there is rumors that he's going to come back on March 14th because he's been doing full 5-on-5 practice. And then Joe Mazzulla was asked if Jason Tatum was at practice, and he said yes. And then someone asked if he participated, and he didn't even answer. He just kind of gave him a blank stare. So do you think we are gearing up for a Jason Tatum return with all the symbolism going on, or do you think this is a situation where he may sit out next year? Because for me, it seems impossible that someone at his level in his prime is going to be sitting out for the entire playoffs and he'll be able to just sit back. But I'm like 70-30 on it.
I think he comes back. I think March 14th, it feels like it lines up well. You got to think his injury occurred in what? A year, maybe like, was what, April when that injury occurred? It was in the playoffs. So it's been 10 months. That's typically the time frame of when his injury is healed up. So I think it's possible. And not only that, like the Celtics, they're in win now mode. They just signed Peyton Pritchard long term. They have Derek White and Jaylen Brown. The real question for the Celtics is going to be, does Jaylen Brown give up his power to give Jason Tatum back the throne? And honestly, I feel like the way that they've succeeded their entire time together has been them sharing the throne as the best. So I think if the Celtics, especially right now with their win now mode, I think there's no reason why the Celtics shouldn't bring Tatum back and why they shouldn't win the East.
Yeah, I think Tatum can be a selfless superstar because when they did win the finals in 2024, the newest thing Tatum added to his game in the playoffs was getting triple doubles. I was at the game versus Miami where he had his first career triple double, and it was in the playoffs. And then he went on and had multiple games in that playoff run with 10 plus assists. And I think the fact that Jaylen Brown has taken it to this level all season long, where he definitely looks like someone who's dealing with the injury in the playoffs last year. So Jason Tatum doesn't even need to be the second or the third option because you have Pritchard or Derek White, who on any given night can be your number two. And then Jaylen Brown will be the de facto number one. And then Tatum can kind of just find his way back into the flow where maybe Joe Mazzulla even brings him off the bench to start, where you have him be your sixth man or seventh man, where him and Pritchard will come in just to ease him back minutes wise. And then if he's just a guy who comes in, only plays 25 minutes to start in the regular season, gives you about 18 points, and then if he can get back to what he was defensively, I think he's definitely going to be a contributor, and I think it takes the pressure off of him with how well Jaylen Brown has played, and now Peyton Pritchard, who I believe has 30-point game in the last 6 of their 7 games played as the sixth man for the Celtics. And then he went out there last night, had 32 points versus the Lakers. He was hitting logo threes. Peyton Pritchard has a fadeaway right now. Reggie Miller asked Peyton Pritchard to send his son some ball handling drills as well. So people are starting to notice. And honestly, I think this year is going to be the year that Peyton Pritchard really steps up and becomes that number 2 scoring option or number 3 scoring option for the Celtics, because he's been an absolute microwave to the level where now you have to actually put him in the same conversation as someone like a Jamal Crawford coming off the bench, McConnell, and then you also have him. He kind of plays a little bit like CJ McCollum too.
Yeah, and he's been a really good 3-and-D guy. He's been good defensively for him. He's shooting, he's making about three threes a game. He's shooting about 37%, and each year he's getting better and better. Right now, he is averaging about 18 points a game, which for a guy that they drafted at the end of the first round in 2020, the fact that he's been able to ascend the way he has, he's starting pretty much every game now. He's shown to be an elite shooter. Like, I think the Payne Pritchard party is here, and I think we're all happy to see it. That Lakers game is just cherry on top. He dropped 30 points. He hit 6 threes, 8 assists, and he's been good defensively. Like, this is the Payton Pritchard coming out party. And I think we saw it a little bit last year, but he's been successful in the postseason as well. Like last year, he was averaging about 40% from three. And same goes with this year as well. Like I think he's just an automatic bucket, and his handles are nasty. So I definitely think Payton Pritchard's a beast, and I'm excited to see him perform in the postseason.
Yeah, and then you also have the rookie they drafted from Spain this year, Hugo Gonzalez, has been a really great player for him. Him and Derek White on the court together, plus minus, plus 32 when Hugo Gonzalez and Derek White play together. He's been a really good defender for them, and I think their length and their defensive versatility is honestly better than it was last year, where they have a lot more 3-and-D wing type players, where Jordan Walsh is now ready to have an impact in the playoffs. And when you have him, Gonzalez, and Luke Garza has been a solid outside shooting big for you. And then to top it off, Brad Stevens is like, okay, Drew Holiday's getting old. Let me trade him for Anfernee Simmons. And then I'm going to trade Simmons to the Bulls for Vucevic, who, by the way, has more points in his career than Klay Thompson.
God, I didn't know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Vucevic is a whole nother piece there. Like, I feel like the problem with the Celtics post Al Horford has been, do they have size? Are they going to be able to compete with the teams like the Spurs, the Thunder? And then they go out and get Vucevic, who really hasn't even been fully acclimated into their lineup yet. And he's just been a rebound machine. Like, he got 8 rebounds against the Lakers. In his previous game against the Bulls, he had 11. Like, all they need Vucevic to do is basically what they wanted Porzingis to do. Just get 10 rebounds a game, score like 15 points, hit a couple of big threes when we need you to, and that's it. We don't need you to do anything else. And I think he can do
Yeah.
that with more than enough ease.
Yeah, just get like 15 points, 11 rebounds each game. And then Luke Garza's been good for them. Keita has also been a solid starter for them all year long. And then Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla just have a system where Joe Mazzulla, like, now is in the running for coach of the year. And honestly, if we're talking about MVP, I know Cade Cunningham and the Pistons are playing really well. And I know Cade Cunningham has the number 1 seed, but I think Jaylen Brown is at the point in his career where he's just been at it so long that, don't you feel like it's time to give Jaylen Brown an MVP? Because that's how we hand out awards nowadays in sports, right? So I think it's just, it's a accomplishment for his career. He's been to the finals a bunch of times, been with the Celtics teams a while. So let's go ahead and give Jaylen Brown the MVP, because we don't know when he could win one again. Am I right?
Yeah, let's go the Matt Stafford approach. I mean, he is averaging 30 points a game. He's got 7 assists a game. Like, he's a beast. Like, I don't know. He's been in the league a long time. And, how much more good years does he have?